Published 0404ist, the 29th of November 2017. Updated 0954ist, the 29th of November 2017. Labours Emily Thornberry jibed Damian Green over the ongoing sleaze probe into his behaviour today as the embattled minister stood in at pmqs. Mr. Green filled in for Theresa May, who is visiting the Middle East, and looked nervous as Mrs. Thornberry opened her questions by asking if he was happy to be held to the same standards in government that he required of others while he was in opposition. Mrs. Thornberry joked that Mr. Green seemed perturbed by my line of questioning, adding he needn't worry, I'm not going there. Mr. Green, who faces allegations of making inappropriate advances to Tory activist Kate Maltby and that was viewed on a computer in his parliamentary office, responded that all ministers should be held to the ministerial code. As the session continued, a new allegation about Mr. Green's conduct emerged as it was claimed in the Evening Standard his apparent advance at Ms. Maltby came with an offer to help her find a job. Mr. Green refused to issue a general apology to all people who have been harassed in Westminster. His spokesman was later unable to say whether Mr. Green even agreed with Mrs. May's earlier apology on similar terms. Damian Green stood in for Theresa May at Prime Minister's questions today despite still being under investigation over computer and sleaze claims. Mr. Green looked nervous as Mrs. Thornberry opened her questions by asking if he was happy to be held to the same standards in government that he required of others while he was in opposition. Mrs. Thornberry joked that Mr. Green seemed perturbed by my line of questioning, adding he needn't worry, I'm not going there. Mrs. May ordered an inquiry last month into allegations that Mr. Green made inappropriate advances to Ms. Maltby. Her friend Rosamund Owen used a column in The Standard today to reveal private messages proving Ms. Maltby's story has been consistent since the incident happened. And she made a new allegation that Mr. Green's claimed advance came in the context of help to find a job within the Tory party. The initial probe into Ms. Maltby's claim was later widened to cover claims that photography was found by police on a computer in his Commons office during a controversial raid in 2007. Mr. Green, who faces allegations of making inappropriate advances to Tory activist Kate Maltby and that was viewed on a computer in his parliamentary office following pmqs today. A spokesman for Mr. Green said Damian Green has never made any advance towards Kate Maltby and never offered a job or anything similar. The discussions they had were in the context of her asking him for career advice. The spokesman said he would not comment further on the ongoing investigation. Mr. Green was also hit with a thinly veiled question from Labour MP John Mann, who urged him to apologise to victims of harassment that Parliament and government have been letting down. An awkward-looking Mr. Green replied, I absolutely agree that both this place as an institution and all the political parties need to improve complaints procedures and other aspects of the culture of politics to make sure young men or young women interested in politics are not in any way deterred from playing an active role in it. Mr. Green was also hit with a thinly veiled question from Labour MP John Mann pictured today during pmqs, who urged him to apologise to victims of harassment that Parliament and government have been letting down. Asked by reporters on her trip earlier today why Mr. Green was still being allowed to deputise, Mrs. May said he is the first Secretary of State, he has deputised for me at Prime Minister's questions before. Obviously considerations of these issues are continuing, but he is first Secretary of State, he has done Prime Minister's questions before and I am sure he will do a very good job. Mrs. May's spokesman was unable to give a timetable for the completion of the inquiry or of a separate probe into allegations about International Trade Minister Mark Garnier. The PMS spokesman said the whole procedure is ongoing. Once that is concluded, it will report back and the findings will be made public. Mrs. May pictured leaving No 10 on Monday ordered an inquiry last month into allegations that Mr. Green made inappropriate advances to a female activist Kate Maltby. Mrs. May pictured during a pmqs in February insisted today her de facto deputy will do a very good job, but he will appear despite Downing Street last night refusing to offer a vote of confidence in him. Damian Green is first Secretary of State and you would expect him to stand in for the Prime Minister at pmqs. We are not in the business of preempting the findings of this inquiry. Labour MP Jess Phillips, who has campaigned for a clean-up of Westminster since harassment allegations first emerged, condemned the decision to send Mr. Green. She tweeted, "The political still matters more than the problem to those with power." It's been tiring trying to get people to take it seriously. This looks like more of that to those who have complained. Ms. Thornberry was making her second appearance deputising for Jeremy Corbyn, who by convention also misses the session when Mrs. May is away.